السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. I welcome once again all my brothers and sisters for this session, and as it has been announced by the organizers, the title of this lecture or the theme is The Poisoned Arrow. And what are we going to discuss in this? Can someone have a wild guess? Can you please reduce the echo? And can someone have a wild guess as to what are we going to discuss? Quickly. What comes to your mind when you hear the topic poisoned arrow? So it's a suspense. No one can guess it. Any smart students here? I believe everyone is a smart student here, inshallah. Okay, so that means the topic has fulfilled its purpose, and I wanted it to be like, a suspense kind of a thing where people are thinking about it as to what is going to be discussed in this. Once the Prophet ﷺ, he was with a Sahabi, and a woman came to the Prophet ﷺ to ask a question. And this woman was a beautiful young woman. So as she was asking a question to the Prophet ﷺ, the Sahabi standing next to the Prophet, he was staring at this woman. He was looking at this woman. So our beloved Prophet ﷺ, he took hold of his face and he just slightly turned it on the other side. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, this is something which is a natural instinct in human beings. We are generally attracted to the opposite gender, especially when it comes to men. And I believe this gathering is about most of us. I don't think sisters are attending this, but it's the men who are attending this, and this is something which is in our nature. We get attracted towards women. And the Sahabi with the Prophet ﷺ, this was a natural thing. But the beautiful way of the Prophet ﷺ, which we see, is that he took hold of his face and he just turned it aside. This is how the Prophet ﷺ corrected the mistakes of his companions. Today, we are living in an age, this 21st century. This 21st century has seen a lot of developments. And subhanallah, we have seen social media, e-commerce coming up. Now it's AI, artificial intelligence, AR, augmented reality, and IoT. And there are engineering students here. And you all know, technology is developing. And you have a lot of development in terms of medicine, when it comes to the field of medicine, when it comes to the field of engineering, mechanical, and whatnot. The world is developing when it comes to technology. And things are rapidly changing. The dynamics are rapidly changing. And so are our habits, our psychology, and our behavior is changing as well. So therefore, we need to take hold of our behavior before it becomes too late, before it's too late. And therefore, what we need to realize is that this gaze, this look, is a poisoned arrow. When you look at something which is forbidden, which is not permissible, which is not allowed in Islam, then this is a problem. And in 21st century, in today's time, we find this to be very easy. Back then, say 15 years back, it was very difficult for a person to commit a sin or to watch something which is haram. It was difficult. 50 years back, it was very difficult. 100 years back, 200 years back, it was extremely difficult. If a man, he wanted to look at something haram, he has to sneak out of his house. He has to go find a place where he can find something haram. Then he has to hide from everyone, take the means of transportation. They didn't have bikes and cars and buses and trains. Has to take the means of transportation, and then go find a place, hide, and then look at something which is haram. But today, what we find is that it's just on the click of a button. It's easily accessible. And therefore, with technology, we have acquired this ease of accessibility. We can easily access anything. Myself, standing here on this podium, I can access any page at this moment. You sitting there in the audience, just with a smartphone and a good 3G or 4G internet, you can access any page. You can open any image. You can watch any filthy image. You can watch any filthy video. This is how easy it has become now to commit a sin. It has become very easy to indulge into something which is haram. To have a relationship, you don't need to hide in your college and take a leaf and throw it, or make a ball, a paper ball, and throw at the girl with your address in it, and then you don't need all this. It's just Facebook ID or a WhatsApp number, and you have access day and night at any time of the day. You can easily access and you can talk and have these relationships which the Shaitaan wants us to do. So this is the scenario, and everyone is aware of. I don't think that people sitting here are unaware about the modern technology, the modern developments such as Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and whatnot. Is there anyone in this auditorium who does not use Facebook? Okay, so we have many aliens. Okay, but is there anyone who hasn't heard about YouTube or has ever, you have not ever watched a YouTube video? Is there anyone here? Okay, so the aliens vanished. And you know how nowadays it works. Even if you are watching an Islamic video, or listening to the Quran, or listening to Mishari al-Afasi, or Sheikh Sudais, or Sheikh Shuraim, you're listening, and all of a sudden, an advert appears, a pop-up appears, and you're like, whoa, what is this? Where did she come from? Where did this advertisement come from? Nowadays, they have implemented that in video advertisements, if those who are aware about this. So, the main idea is to understand how to tackle this issue and how to save yourself from falling in these sins. We are not denying the reality. Where will you? You're not going to run away to the jungles or to the deserts. But how do you tackle this? How do you face these problems which are there? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, in Surah Nur, ayah number 30, قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ, that say to the believing men that they should lower their gaze and they should guard their modesty. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is clearly instructing us in these words of the Quran that we are supposed to lower our gaze. And then the verse says, and guard your modesty. So gaze and modesty, this has a link. It all starts with a gaze. It all starts with that gaze which is with desire and lust. It all starts with that, and then it leads to many other sins and transgression. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran in the next verse, وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ. Let's say to the believing women that they should also lower their gaze and guard their modesty. So we see that most of the times, it starts off with the gaze. Maybe, at your university, at your campus, a girl and a boy, they just, bump into each other, and then they exchange numbers, they look at each other, and everything, it starts with minor issues which we consider to be minor, but then later on it ends up into affairs and zina and whatnot. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of us from it. The look is one of the poisoned arrows of the devil. This is what our righteous scholars, this is what our predecessors and people of knowledge have described, that the look which you look, this is the poisoned arrow of the devil, because it all starts with the look. And therefore we saw that the Prophet ﷺ, he also corrected the Sahabi, and there are verses of the Quran, and this is how the Sahaba were. So for us, it is important to know that when you come across such content, you have to lower your gaze. You cannot keep looking at it, or you cannot follow it up with your second gaze. The Prophet ﷺ also mentioned that the accidental gaze is forgiven. This is which comes naturally. You're walking on the streets, you're riding your bike, you come across, or in your campus, you come across a girl. It's accidental look. We all know about accidental look. It's accidental, yani you don't want to look, but okay, so inshallah this is forgiven. But when you yourself, on your tab, on your mobile, you open a website, you open something to show to your friend, look at this new actress, or look at this new music video, or look at this, or you yourself go and keep looking at something, then this is problematic. And you know this, I know this. We don't need to lie to ourselves. We know what is an accidental look and what is not. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the fraud of your eyes. And He knows what is there in your heart. So you can deceive your parents, you can deceive your teacher. Your teacher thinks you're studying, but you're watching something else. Your parents think, my child, my son, he has, +3 number in his eyes, and he's very studious, he's studying for exam. Or rather, you are sitting in the room and you are doing something else, you're watching something else. You can deceive your parents, but you cannot deceive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah mentioned in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the fraud of your eyes. So we need to keep this in mind, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything. He has created us and He is looking at us. We cannot deceive Him. Yes, there are times of weakness, and as I mentioned, that because of these means which we have today, it becomes more difficult. But remember, the reward is also more for us. As 200 years back, these means were not available. This fitna was not for them. But today, we have this. So therefore, if we abstain, if we have patience, if we don't fall in these sins, the reward will be more. Let me tell you one incident. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran that we will surely test you with the game animal, with the animal. Now, this verse was revealed in context to an incident. That is, the Sahaba, when they were in the state of Ihram, and it is known that when you're in the state of Ihram, you cannot hunt an animal for food. Okay? When you're in the state of Umrah or Hajj, you cannot hunt an animal for food. When the Sahaba were in a state of this Ihram, the animals, they came and they were like, offering themselves. They didn't have to go and hunt, and they were like easily accessible. This is my point. It was easily accessible. And if they wanted, they could have slaughtered and they would have the best of foods. But the Sahaba, none of the Sahabi approached and slaughtered the animal. Because the Quran says, we will surely test you with game animals. And they knew it's haram to approach or to hunt an animal for eating in the state of Ihram. And this is my point. Today we have easy access to almost everything. To almost every type of sin, we have easy access, specifically to looking at haram, pornographic websites, or if you want to chat with a girl, or if you want to have an affair, it's very easy. All is easily accessible, but we need to keep this amana. We need to have this consciousness of Allah, that this is a test for us, and we are supposed to abstain from these sins. Now, as I mentioned that it's a fact, and no one is free of this. No one over here is going to leave smartphones or not accessing internet, except those who can, and those who are really people of strong faith, and they have other ways to do things. Alhamdulillah. But we are facing a practical problem. So how do we come out of this? I standing here giving a speech, or other khatibs, other speakers, or the khatib at your masjid, or your parents, or your teachers, no one can make you stop from this. No one can help you and no one can do this. And you listen to this lecture, you go back and you're like, okay, the lecture was good. You are now in a state of iman. After 2 days, 5 days, 10 days, some new video comes and some new pop-up comes and then you fall into it again. It's practically, we have to make the struggle. And I will give you 2 verses of the Quran. And if you just remember these 2 verses of the Quran, inshallah, this is the solution for us to come out of this problem. The next time you open YouTube, you will know this. You can abstain yourself. The next time a girl comes and approaches you, forget about you going behind her. Even if she comes and approaches you, you will know that this is the fact and this will help you avoid. The next time you get someone on WhatsApp or your Twitter or whatever account, Instagram you're using, you come across an image, you will remember this. So there is no way we can make you stop from this except these 2 verses of the Quran. If you remember this, even at night when you get up, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and Shaitaan whispers to you, open your laptop, access to the internet, open that website, you will remember this and inshallah, this will make you stop doing that sin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Mulk, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَخْشَوْنَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَيْبِ لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةٌ وَأَجْرٌ كَبِيرٌ. This is from Surah Mulk, ayah number 12. If you all wish to note it, go home or go back or open on your smartphones. I believe everyone has smartphones, so they should even have an app of Quran. Later on, open ayah number 12 and read this ayah. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَخْشَوْنَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَيْبِ لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةٌ وَأَجْرٌ كَبِيرٌ. SubhanAllah. Those who fear their Lord in secret, and no one is looking at you. Okay, now you cannot because many people are around, your teacher, your family, your friends, and when people are around you. Mostly this happens when a person is alone and no one is looking at him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, as for those who fear their Lord in secret, they will have forgiveness and a great reward. So remember this. The next time Shaitaan whispers, open your laptop, open your smartphone, remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a great reward for the one who fears him in secret. And this is, subhanAllah, this is when you start fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you're alone, know that you're increasing in iman. When you fear Allah when you're alone, no one is there. And when you shed a tear for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you have this awe and fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you're alone, know that you're improving in your deen, irrespective of your knowledge. But if you fear Allah when you're alone, because when you're alone, you don't have any danger. The teacher might, punish you, fail you, your parents might punish you, but when you're alone, it's only the fear of Allah. So this verse of Surah Mulk, ayah number 12 says that those who fear their Lord in secret, they will surely have forgiveness and a great reward. The second verse, this says from Surah Naziyah, ayah number 40 and 41. وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَحَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. This surah is just amazing. And if we truly understand what this means, inshallah, you from now itself will not find it difficult to avoid these sins. I know it's difficult, but inshallah, you will have this willpower. And if you make this resolution, this verse says, وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَحَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى. As for him who fears standing before his Lord. If I ask anyone from here to come up here and give a speech, you will start, trembling. Or if your teacher calls you and tells you that, why didn't you do this? Your professor calls you and tells you, what about this? Your assignments are due, your exam. We generally, human beings, have a psychology that we fear answering. Your parents, your father might call you and ask you, why did you do this? Why did you do that? We always have this fear. We don't want to face people and we don't want to answer people. But the true reality is that we will stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we will be questioned. We will be questioned. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, he who fears to stand before Allah. The next time you get this thought of sin, the next time Shaitaan comes to you and tells you to commit that sin, remember, you have to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you fear at that moment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then surely paradise will be his abode. Surely paradise will be your abode. وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ. And he protects himself, he fears standing before his Lord, and he protects himself from his evil desires, from his low desires. And this is what we are talking about. Looking at things and initiating an affair or a relationship. All these come under this headline of having lowly desires. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us channels, halal channels, to channelize our desires. But we're talking about these haram desires, looking and initiating haram relationships. So these two things, two verses of the Quran, inshallah, if you read this, understand this, this will truly help you in abstaining from these sins. And once you know, the reminder helps the believers. The next time you get this whisper, open this, remember, Allah mentioned in the Quran that he who fears standing before his Lord, he and protects himself from the lowly desires, he will have Jannah as his abode. And the one who fears Allah in secret. So, both these verses, just memorize these verses, and inshallah, whenever this thought comes to you, remember these verses, and inshallah, this reminder will help you. We have many reminders, from Facebook as well. Nowadays, when you are on Facebook, so Facebook tells you, 4 years ago you did this. 5 years ago you did this. 2 years ago you did this, right? And subhanallah, this is what on the day of resurrection, everything will be in front of us. And you did this at this time, you watched this at this time. And Allah mentioned in the Quran, the eyes will bear witness. Our eyes, they will bear witness against us, yes. Even if you want to deny, no, I didn't open this website. The eyes will bear witness. No, he opened this website, and this is what you did. So on the day of resurrection, we cannot escape. And similarly, like how Facebook gives us reminders, we should also check. You are the judge. You go and open your history, Explorer and YouTube history, and check the history and see if it makes you happy, or you want to close the laptop and run away, or you want to destroy the laptop. What does the history tell you? The history will tell you about your development, and inshallah, it should be a good development, we assume. The Prophet ﷺ said, the zina of the eyes is to look at haram things. So zina is, the major form of zina is, when a girl and a boy, they commit adultery or fornication. But the Prophet ﷺ also said that the zina of the eyes is to look at haram things. Let it be through any magazines or whatever. If you look in person, a girl is walking and you look at her, this is forbidden. Or if it's through digital means, it's Facebook or digital, doesn't mean that it's allowed. So any type of haram look is a type of zina. That's what the Prophet ﷺ said. And how much time do you have? Okay, so I will just make this. I mentioned this even previously, and I would like to mention this again. Like our eyes, our look and our eyes, they work like a camera. Okay, they work like a camera. When you look at something, or rather webcam or a mobile cam nowadays, we are getting 4 cameras, 5 cameras, and 10 cameras. It's more of a camera rather than a mobile phone. They're competing. Samsung, Hawaii, and Huawei. I don't know how to pronounce it actually. How is it? Huawei. Who cares? As far as, it works. So they have these cameras, and, now they're competing 24 megapixel camera and 36 and whatnot. So the point is that our eyes, they work like a camera. Because when you look at something, it gets stored in your memory. Like how you take a picture, it gets stored in the memory card or the phone memory, or if it's your laptop, it's the hard disk. It gets stored in the hard disk. It gets stored in the memory. And later on, when it's stored here, Shaitaan can come and put whispers in your mind. And you don't want this. When you go to prayer, you stand for prayer, and you get these images which you saw. You don't want to spoil your khushu. You don't want to spoil your salah. You go for umrah, and you get these images in your mind. You want to pray, you're fasting, and then you get these images in your mind. So you don't want this. You don't want this to happen. Therefore, you are supposed to avoid this. Because our eyes, they work like a camera. Even later on, technically, for you to delete it from here, it becomes very difficult. You can delete it from your mobile phone, but for you to delete it from here, it becomes very difficult. And we have to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us in abstaining from these type of sins. Now, quickly, before I complete the session, I would like to give you some benefits of lowering our gaze. When we lower our gaze, what are the benefits? The number one is that our heart is purified. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he said, the greatest calamity for a human being is, it's not that you fail in your exams, it's not that you have an accident or diabetes or illness or whatever. He said the greatest calamity for a human being is the hardening of the heart and distance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You become distanced from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is one of the greatest calamities. And this is caused when you freely roam around your eyes, when you freely look at things, and okay, this is haram, but I will look at it once, and that is, I will look at it for a few seconds. And you freely look at things, your heart becomes corrupt. So when you lower your gaze, this helps you in purifying your heart, and it helps you coming closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Benefit number two is protection from Shaitaan. As I said, if you have seen these things and these videos, and if you keep looking at these things, Shaitaan will come and keep whispering at you. So once you lower your gaze and you are protecting yourself from these haram actions, inshallah, you will be protected from Shaitaan and his whisperings. Benefit number three, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant you wisdom and insight. You will be more focused towards your ultimate goals. Your goals in life, you will be more focused. And we find a lot of people who are addicted to pornography or the likes. They fail in their exams. They don't have anything happening. They are intelligent. They have been blessed with intellect. But it's a waste because they are not using their intellect in the right channels. And watching these things, watching filth, corrupts your psychology. Watching filth corrupts your psychology, and it stops you from, becoming wise and wisdom. When we lower our gaze, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants us the wisdom. You become more of, a decision maker. They teach you in management schools and business schools, like how to take quick decisions and how to take decisions, in crisis and all. Similarly, when you don't have your mind occupied with these things, with these haram images and haram videos, you will become more focused and you will have a refreshing mind. And if there is a problem, you will be able to tackle it, inshallah. If there is something happening, some problem, trial, tribulation in life, you will have this ability to take decisions and you will be more wise, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant you wisdom. I conclude this lecture and I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the wisdom, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the correct understanding and give us this ability to leave these sins as soon as possible. And that will be a sadaqah jariyah for the organizers, those who are organizing this, and even for us, inshallah, we leave this sin, and we even encourage others, we even invite others towards leaving these sins, inshallah. Wa sallallahu ala nabina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.